Greetings, fellow Earthlings. Welcome to another episode of And Another Thing with Dave. Seeking the truth, exposing the lies. Remember, together, we are unstoppable. Keep on digging.
So before we get too deep into the weeds here, guys, and I don't want to cut anybody off, but we do have this conversation. We do have this conversation coming up February 25th, and that is the conversation on reimagining incarceration and the prison system. So prison reform will be on the docket there. It is definitely coming up. Make sure to check the schedule coming up to see if there's any talks that any of you listeners would like to be a part of. You are more than welcome to. Again, as long as we're up here, you'll notice that we're not screaming and yelling over each other, and we're not calling each other names. That's not what we're about here. We're about learning. We're about finding common ground where we disagree, and we're about being respectful above all else and civil. But I don't want to leave these comments in here too long, so they are building up again. And thank you guys for commenting and being so interactive, because it really makes the show enjoyable. And so yeah, we're gonna keep going with these comments. And again, we're gonna do the can we do the mental note thing? Is that okay with everybody?
To me, yeah. Unfortunately, it builds up. Just to make some commentary on that, it does build up to where like we can't seem to address everything. Right. Which I want to apologize for, because there's some things I that would take longer to address than others.
So maybe what we can do is we'll burn through a couple, we'll pause, address what we need to address, and then move on. I think we can do that. I think they're not too far behind. So let's go up till like 12:47 will be the last message. So yeah. All right, here we go. Spanish Defiant.
So you went on doing a straw man and talking about like our prison system, which most of the people in prison are just nonviolent drug offenders. It's one of the laws that makes people more incarcerated. If you were to take away the drug laws and just have all drugs being legal, the prisons wouldn't have as many people. But our country, the court systems, a lot of other institutions make so much money off having drug prohibition. So I don't know how that goes into the argument. I will say, that's why we have such a large number of inmates. I mean, the other thing could be the case that the way that we apply our laws is more strict than other countries. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also wouldn't want to live in any of those other countries, because we are like one of the only countries that has free speech. All of the other ones have a limitation on speech, and they have certain laws I don't like and I would never like. I think that if those laws were ever to try to be implemented in this country, you might have a violent revolt on your hands.
Just a quick comment. We're number 17 on the standard of living index.
I'm here in the UK, and we have shared parental leave, which can be up to 12 months for literally anyone who's employed. And I think there's also a scheme for if you're self-employed, but if you're employed, either the mother or the father can take up to depending on certain situations, either 6 months to a year off, to sort of bond with the child. And the only other point I'd make on top of that is that the latest parental leave was actually introduced by a centre-right Conservative government, and they're still looking at increasing that. So there is more value and emphasis even under our system on, the non sort of
Sorry, Dave, what were you saying again?
I was just saying I looked up an index of the world index of best quality of life. We're number 17 in the U.S.
Yes, we are.
Zenz, by the way, thank you for commenting. That was the first comment from Zen, so thank you for leaving a comment there, brother. Manuel. Oh, Spanish Defiant.
Oh, speaking about China, China's a hellhole. They have social currency. They have like all these crazy methods that really don't allow you to express yourself freely. or to have any really freedom. You talk about the government, against the government, you're punished. If you do this, do that, again, you're punished. Or you get thrown in jail, or, they end up executing you. Or you get put in concentration camps, like when you have certain ideologies that they don't like the Weibo people, the Chinese Islamists. And like I said, again, such ideas are also very imperialistic, just like China's had control of Nepal for how long now? Those people are basically colonized by the Chinese. Like I said, I know a lot.
All right, so it looks like Emmanuel has 3 more messages. We'll get up to Spanish Defiance next. Let's just keep going, and then we'll hit them all. I don't know, Emmanuel. I'm not hearing anything. I don't know if you're maybe butt commenting. I don't know what. Let's try.
Thing is, capitalism.
There we go.
When it's mixed in with corruption, those are the factors.
Oh, it might be like not trying to leave a message and like not deleting it properly. That could be what it is. So
Yeah.
Since financial institutions in a capitalist society are profit motivated, they're going to find ways to make the most money, and I think history shows that they're going to do it in either legal or illegal ways. So I think if we can eliminate corruption in our institutions in a capitalist society, we'll have a better chance of uplifting those who are less fortunate in a capitalist society, and we'll be able to sustain communities who are less fortunate.
Okay, so we're pretty well. We can kind of leave these to here. I wanted to. Did anybody? There was a lot to unpack there, especially when it came to Spanish Defiant. Did anybody want to address some of the stuff that he was saying?
I will reserve my. I'll let other people go because I have a lot to say. Please go on ahead.
Okay, if I might, is that okay?
Please.
Please. More.
Sorry, you said specifically Spanish Defiant. That was about. I think that was referring to like sort of referencing the current government sort of situations going on in China with the Uyghurs and stuff. That wasn't really where I was going to go with it. May I just go with something I was going to?
It can be Sorry, it can be anybody. I don't want to make it seem like it was just Spanish Defiant.
Okay,
it can be anybody.
So a lot of times the comments are referenced around like the financial institutions being corrupt, or like or corporations or just institutions in general being corrupt. Now, I agree that we have to first establish. I want to make sure this is not long-winded, but we have to establish what corruption is to each individual, right? So
make your point.
Okay.
Make your point.
So corruption is always based on your reference point, right? So if you're in the position of a corporation saving taxes by legally finding ways to lower that payment, that's not, you're going to benefit from that. So you might not see that as corrupt. If you're on the other end of it, seeing them as benefiting more than you or more frequently, we lost Bjorn. We would see that as corrupt. Now, as I kind of lost my train of thought because of we lost a co-host. But when we're talking specifically about financial institutions, right? And we're like, well, when there was that 2008 or whatever that downturn was, where Obama bailed out the banks, and average Joe or Jane or whoever, lost their house, right? Supporting a financial institution probably stems from the fact that if everyone lost confidence in that entity, the value of you'd have a mass withdrawal of funds, a mass inflation. It wouldn't necessarily be beneficial to all. Do I agree that certain banks and institutions should be bailed out? not from my perspective, right? But at the same time, I think there's a larger thing at play when we're thinking about how they're evil corporations and like how these institutions are benefiting and the average person is losing out. What we really need, I think, have to understand is that there's this illusion that is commonly sort of propagated by in Canada they're called conservatives that encourages individuals that are like either low or middle class that paying taxes is just limiting them from the ability to become a millionaire, right? And what they don't realize is that them paying taxes will actually benefit them. And this illusion that occurs that they're all going to be millionaires. And so here's the thing: even if you're one of the people who becomes a millionaire, right, or billionaire now, billion seems so normal, but a millionaire, that not everybody will. And even if you are, that means a lot of people around you will not. Like right now, we cannot have that. So this illusion that's propagated with individuals that I don't want to pay taxes because then it'll limit my ability to potentially one day maybe hit the lottery. If we focus on building up our community or our surroundings, like with the idea that maybe I do, but maybe I don't, that you just start improving your where you're at, like, you know, as individuals, and focusing on like, yeah, taxes aren't so bad because relative to how much money I make, I will have different social services, be it healthcare, education, whatever, and I'm willing to pay that because your daily life will improve, and it will maybe perhaps just in case you don't become the one millionaire, your life will then, and your community will then, the life experience will be greatly improved. It was a bit long-winded, but hopefully that made sense.
Well, no,
I think we need to agree on what corruption is, right? Corruption is acting outside of what's what's normally accepted or legal. It's not just being an aggressive business person. It's doing things that are not sanctioned, right? That's corruption. Like how Wells Fargo was pressuring their tellers to get to sign up for get to sign people up for extra accounts, to the point, so much pressure that people did it illegally and signed them up for up to 9 different accounts that the customers had no idea.
Yes. And you know, and there's another thing.
That's corruption.
Out there also did the
That's
same
brutal
thing.
corruption.
You know, did the same thing. And like I just want to like give like, you know, a shout out to like, you know, Hogan. Like I said, like I was never like I wasn't sure how we were going into this like argument or whatever in this debate itself. But I've learned so much more than I coming into this. And Sebastian, thank you so much for like putting like bottom lines on things and making them make sense to where there wasn't just like a talking point. It is what it is. The definition of what
people always ask how we're going to pay for these programs, right?
But what I'm trying to say is like the fact that like what we end up doing, even though we put like, you know, capitalism, socialism, you know, communism, in all these sort of conversations themselves, we go back to the fact that we have like only touched on the fact that like there's also classism, you know, and we have we keep bringing it up. We keep bringing classism up.
There's a built illusion, right? The built illusion of like, because we still see money as this thing, like we look at it as like paper or a dollar or a hat or TV, whatever the fuck you think of money as. But money is your like time and your labor. If we were able to grasp the fact that these people are getting our labor, they're getting our labor, and we've bought into this, like, and you realize your labor is the value, and then you're like, okay, well, what else could I do with my labor? You could then use that labor for like not your whole city, but like just your general, like, be it your like your local block, be it your like your area that you live in, and you put that labor in, and you start realizing that you can use your labor to improve your surroundings. Is that idealistic? Yes. Is that sort of like like if somebody's working 8 jobs just to, you know, support, not 8 jobs, you know what I'm saying, but like 3 jobs.
Agree. No, agree. No, I know what you're saying.
Nobody has time to do that. Like it's easy for somebody to say, like in Canada with like getting to where I'm at, where you're like, oh yeah, like, but when you're all of your time is caught up laboring for someone else, you don't really have time to even think about, like, you know, you're sleeping, feeding your kids, going to work. There's no free time. It's because we're giving our labor away for nothing.
I'll tell you a story. Like, since I've been working in, like, you know, in the restaurant, food and bev sort of business, and there's a couple of moms there. You know what I mean? More than a few, but like a couple moms, I hear them talk. You know, like they will tell me, because like since they are line cooks or just cook themselves and don't get any time off, they will have their pregnancy and like 2 weeks later show up on the line because I got to be that bitch.
Well,
and it's like, no, you don't have to be her. We keep like have a society that's better like you having to show up because you're scared someone's gonna like steal your spot. You know what I mean?
Or
she can't just decide I'm going to live in a better society, though, right? She's got to put food on the table. She's got to pay rent.
Yeah, because she can't even take the time off because she can't. No, but right now she can't even take the time off to have time with her newborn, which is not like a privilege. It's like it's a necessity. But like because she can't, if she takes the time off, she can't even afford her rent, right? Like I remember being in that place.
It's so sad.
Not that.
It's so sad.
And the first thing people say when you talk about programs like that, like offering humanistic programs like every other freaking country offers, is how are we going to pay for it? Well, here's how we're going to pay for it. Biden just upped our military budget, $778 billion a year. You know what China pays? 209. You know what Russia pays? 41.6 billion. So let's take what China pays, 209. Double that. That's 418 billion. We'll pay twice as much as the biggest adversary. The difference between that is $360 billion a year. Do you mean that couldn't pay for some social programs? And then people say, how are we going to pay for school? And you can't have free school. Well, your average college grad makes twice what the average high school student makes. So in their lifetime of working, they make $208,000. They pay $208,000 more in taxes. They make $833,000, pay $208,000 more. That's at 25% tax rate. So that's how you pay for free college. It pays for itself and to get the system going in perpetuity.
Well, the fact that Biden's like Bill Better, like whatever the hell it was, like
it's great.
I can't.
Biden's a capitalistic crone.
The Bill Better sort of like Bill could like done things for that. Honestly, you're saying the fact that he put more money into like, you know, when it comes, like you said earlier, the elephant in the room. You said that, like we have not touched on that when it comes like when it comes to the military sort of aspect of like we just dump money in there. That's Biden's way to like. That's Biden's way to tell Mitch McConnell, I still believe in this. You know what I mean? I'm not a hawk. I'm not a dove, but I'm still want to put money into like, you know, in the military itself. So if I do that, could you give me what I want in other situations of what I want to do in policies? That's what that was.
Right. And I hear you. Like, I get that because like he needs that so he can pass other things. It's like a little give and take. Here's the thing. America's one like last major manufacturing or whatever product is guns and military weapons. Like, so when you say that you're putting $7 billion into, like when you said like Afghanistan cost $1 billion a day with some crazy shit like that, it's literally putting money back into like all of these like these factories that you guys have there. Now my profession, what I do is it's called quantity surveying. So what we do is we quantify materials, labor, and then so say somebody came to me, a contractor came to me, as they said, to their bid was like $100,000 for framing, right? But then I quantify, measure material, and I know the labor rates, right? And I go to them like, well, I know the actual physical labor cost, and I know the average labor cost and the material cost. So I go, well, no, like here's your material cost, here's your labor cost, and here's your 10% overhead and profit. So it should be maybe $87,000. Like, why? They're like, oh, you got me, and then bring their price down. You could still have all of the fucking physical things that you make militarily. You just need, like, there's so much fat, like there's so much extra money that is spent. Like you measure your like spending in military as like, you know, like $1. Like I think you guys like militarily, like weapons cost way more than it costs to make. Like the profits are out of control. Now, by redirecting, like you don't even have to diminish how much you're producing militarily. Whether I think that's a lot, we benefit in Canada from your multiple troops. It's that you just have like a lot of like extra fat, and
there's no bid contracts, and the contracts that do exist used to be negotiated on cost plus profit. So the profit was calculated as a percentage of the overall cost. So that was a motivation to boost the price, to boost the overall cost, because you're going to get more profit.
Right, because
crazy. Halliburton.
You don't have any quantity survey. Quantity surveyors will save the world. I mean, nobody knows what they fucking are. They think they're land surveys, but quantity surveyors they can solve the problem. I might just be pumping my own tires here, but it's again. Let's just.
I wonder if the guy hunting with Dick Cheney that day was a quantity surveyor.
Maybe, but he was offside for stepping in front of Dick Cheney's gun.
Hey, Dick Cheney, these numbers just aren't adding up. Blam! What did you say? Oh, nothing. Okay. Nothing. I didn't say anything.
So before we get too deep into the mud, guys, before we get too deep into the mud, I do want to give Bjorn and Sebastian an opportunity to kind of share their thoughts as well. And so Bjorn, I know, Sebastian, you said you had a lot to say. So Bjorn, did you have anything to add here? I know you dropped out there for a second, but
yeah, I think we're just riding.
Riding what?
Fair enough. Riding the wave. Sebastian?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd like Ken, and I appreciate your very kind words about my my kind of like stream of consciousness way of communicating. But to be fair, a lot of the stuff, you know, technically that I know is rehearsed over time. I mean, a lot of it comes from my taught ability to critically think. Yeah, and a lot of it is just like you know, there are things that I like, you know, I've come across or been taught or have decided for myself, oh, I have an epiphany here. I'm writing this down, or I'm going to look into this thing to better develop that idea, to better communicate, you know, my vision of the world.
Honestly, Sebastian, like I should call you Sebastian. We're not that close, but in the same sense, I'll call, like I said, Bastion. Sorry, but the fact that you've educated me on so many things in this talk that we've had in the last like 2 hours. And I know more now on that than I did before you. So, like, thank you for coming, like, to have a seat at the table itself and educate me. So I'm not ignorant to some of the things that I kind of knew, but like you helped me to the point to where I know more. So thank you for that, dude. Seriously, thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm here, right? To contextualize some things and you know, I mean, I love sharing my experience and my, you know, what I have to offer, and I like doing it in an environment like this because it's like I'm not always I'm constantly on the defensive, and less so these days than I used to be. But I have one of the most unpopular ideologies in American history. Like I am the product of an ideology that has been banned at least twice in this country, like made illegal essentially. So, when we talk about like freedom of speech and like these really vague allusions to all kinds of freedoms and privileges and abundance.
I mean, you go back to the whole. Like,
hold on. Let him finish his thoughts, brother. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, well, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, we have these essentially trained talking points against communism and communists, but like the truth of the matter is like we have been the victims of political violence, and we have been the victims of political suppression, and we've been denied our freedom of speech often throughout history, and not that long ago. We're talking about like the 1950s. And even after that, you have the rise of the Black Panthers. Well, they were being illegally incarcerated by being analyzed by against their will by psychiatrists who were dumping them into other institutions outside of just the prison system, so that technically there was a loophole to suppress communists. That's why we developed the war on drugs, was to go after leftists and Black liberationists. I mean, it's when we talk about freedom of speech, I mean, this is an empty, like, just a hollow nod to something that doesn't exist. So for me, at least, in my perspective, that's how I see that. Like, I understand we have been thoroughly trained to value certain things and to project those things into our daily lives. But like, the fact of the matter is, like, I mean, all I could say is, like, we have to understand, while we do have certain privileges, and I don't see them as rights, we have certain privileges in the society. There are limitations to how far that can go. And we act like it is, and my goal, and I just want to be very, very clear, my goal for a better society is to expand freedoms, to expand rights and protections for people, and to expand democracy. Like, I know that sounds absurd because I am a communist. I am an Iron Curtain Marxist-Leninist. Like, I will be very clear. There are some things that throughout history, I understand them contextually, but there are definitely things I don't agree with that have transpired in the middle of the biggest war of in history, and those things get projected. But there are also things that are just entirely fabricated about the history of communism and communism.
Well, I mean, I just, like, we talk about democracy. It's like, look at, like, Palpatine, when he said, "I love democracy, I love the Republic." He didn't love those things. He was trying his best, like, change those things, and that was like in a non-real world. But in the same sense, we have to know, like, the passion to where you're going, and like your passion to, like, have a voice to, like, sort of say there's things we need to, like, know, be aware of. Sebastian, thank you so much.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Honestly,
I agree with that.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I'm not done though. I said, I have a lot to say.
Take it back. I take it back.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of And Another Thing with Dave. If you're digging what I'm doing, picking up what I'm throwing down, please do share with friends and on social media. Until next time, keep on digging for the truth.